Hey guys, I'm Chris.
And I'm Mike.
And welcome back to No Limits, a Mitch Rapp podcast. Special announcement today, Mike.
We are very excited to make a pretty big announcement. And as you know, Vince sadly passed away from prostate cancer back in 2013. And our mission has been to use this podcast as a platform to celebrate him and the work that he left for us. So we wanted to give back to a cause that would have mattered very much to him and his family. So we are excited to announce in this special episode, we have an interview with Rebecca Levine, who is the Chief of Staff and Vice President for Government Affairs at the Prostate Cancer Foundation, or PCF. She talked to us about the amazing work they're doing to fund research to help end prostate cancer, and their long-standing partnership with the VA to bring cutting-edge treatment to veterans. And that's a cause we definitely want to get behind.
Right, yeah, it was really exciting to talk to her. I was nerding out a little bit with the science, so you guys will hear.
Yes.
You know, we're really excited that the next 2 months we're going to be able to donate all of our Patreon proceeds. We'll get you the final number on that when we have it, but we're really happy to contribute that the next 2 months to the Prostate Cancer Foundation. And, you know, just a quick plug, if you've been on the fence, this might be the time to sign up. This is a great foundation. You know, 100% of our pledges are going to be donated. Yeah, and you'll get some sweet Mitch Rapp Pod stickers and bookmarks to go along with your contribution, and be entered into our monthly Vince Flynn autographed book giveaway. So, you know, just go visit our website. If you've been thinking about it, mitchrappod.com. Click on that little orange support button for Patreon. Or you can go directly to patreon.com/mitchrappod. We'll put those links in the show notes for you. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this interview. So today we welcome Rebecca Levine, Chief of Staff and Vice President of Government Affairs for the Prostate Cancer Foundation. For the past decade, Ms. Levine has dedicated her career to advancing the PCF's mission through the creation of innovative programs aimed at solving the most urgent problems in the prostate cancer research field. So yeah, we thank you very much for coming to speak with us today. Yeah, maybe we could start out if you could just provide us with a little bit of your background and then more background on the project, what the foundation as a whole is. Yeah, excited to learn more about it.
Absolutely. So, you know, my own background, I have always been drawn to the nonprofit world. And when I joined the Prostate Cancer Foundation in 2007, I had several members of my family who had different forms of cancer. And the mission-driven focus of the Prostate Cancer Foundation was something that I found deeply compelling. The Prostate Cancer Foundation was formed in 1993 when Mike Milken was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And really, there weren't many options for aggressive forms of prostate cancer when the foundation was founded. And so through the foundation, we've basically funded $800 million in prostate cancer research to date, 220 cancer centers, over 2,000 research projects. And our mission is really to put together the most compelling medical research and science that can support new treatments and cures for prostate cancer. Lately, that work has focused on a field called precision medicine and precision oncology. And looking forward to talking with you more about that.
Yeah, I'm a biologist, so all this stuff interests me. So.
Oh, excellent. What is your area? And I'll just mention, I'm not a scientist, but it's my privilege to work with scientists and to really learn about all of the incredible work that scientists are doing to advance the cause.
Yeah, so I'm getting my PhD in biochemistry and molecular biology, and I mainly study DNA mismatch repair, and with the goal being to try to understand a form of colon cancer, hereditary non-polyposis colon cancer. A lot of patients that have mutations in the proteins that I study. But yeah, so anyways, I'm super interested in that, the work that anyone does. And I'm always telling people to go and get a colon screening, earlier the better.
Well, and colon cancer is one of those areas where screening is such a definitive part. Prevention is such an important aspect, and work around awareness in colon cancer screenings have really been a really important part of early detection strategies. And with prostate cancer, screening is a little bit more of a complex issue in some ways, because the test for prostate cancer, it's called the PSA test. It's not a cancer specific test. It tests this specific protein. You might be familiar with the PSA antigen, and we like to think of it as a smoke alarm, and not it doesn't actually tell you if you have the presence of prostate cancer. But PSA-based testing in combination with other strategies can be a powerful tool with prostate cancer in detecting it early. You mentioned mismatch repair genes, and you may know that they're implicated in prostate cancer and hereditary forms of prostate cancer. One of the tenets of our work is really the idea that what we're doing in the field of prostate cancer can affect treatments for other kinds of cancers. We actually keep what we call our PCF prescription pad, which is a long list of all of the mutations that are implicated in prostate cancer, and a very detailed list of all of the treatments that are at various stages of development. We track those for prostate cancer and for other forms of cancer. So what you're doing is a really central part of our work.
It's pretty basic biology, but I like to think that maybe one day down the road, some doctor will read my paper and think of something. So little steps.
Not much of that is basic to me. I understand about 5% of the science technical jargon that Chris tends to use. So to provide you a little background on the project, we really started this podcast to honor Vince Flynn, our favorite author, and the body of work that he left us, some amazing political military thrillers around a character named Mitch Rapp. And so not only is the focus of his books very much about veterans issues and military causes, so was Vince's life, and that was very important to him. And so when he passed away in 2013 of prostate cancer, a lot of the readers were shocked, showed a lot of empathy of what he and his family were going through, and maybe knew somebody affected themselves. And this common bond among his readership is the military community. So can you tell us a little bit more about PCF's partnership with the VA? I hear you do a lot of work for veterans and veterans issues.
Absolutely. Well, you may know that prostate cancer is the number one cancer diagnosed among veterans. The VA actually is the largest integrated health system in the U.S. And the PCF is the largest philanthropic source for prostate cancer research globally. And so from a very practical standpoint, when the Prostate Cancer Foundation had funded much of the scientific evidence and research and philanthropy, using philanthropy from dedicated donors, to really uncover the sort of genes of interest and that were actionable for medical strategies and treatments for men with advanced forms of prostate cancer. When we had really done that work with essentially two very large-scale teams that myriad institutions with multidisciplinary scientists, basic scientists, treatment scientists, pathologists, clinical geneticists. One of the groups actually perfected a technique known as the bone biopsy, which is taking metastatic tissue that can be used to sequence this tissue, and it can be meaningful for treatment strategies. Essentially, when we had done this work, it became clear that we had the opportunity to democratize it and to pair with a medical system in order to basically provide a way to have a clinical application of the work and science that we were doing and spearheading. And so that there was a very practical component to the work that we were doing partnering. There was also a very personal component for the Prostate Cancer Foundation. We had several board members who battled very aggressive forms of prostate cancer, who were veterans and who had served in the military, who had also served as clinical trial participants. And it was really this executive leadership on our board and the mission-driven sense of the Prostate Cancer Foundation and the mission focus of those who have served in the military, I think that came together in a unique way. One of those board members, Dr. Tripp Cassells, also served as Assistant Secretary of Health Affairs, so really served for the health of the military, while also being somebody who served a tour of duty while fighting prostate cancer. And so it was really the very personal connection to these board members of ours, and certainly the vision of our leadership, Mike Milken, Dr. Jonathan Simons, Dr. Andrew von Eschenbach, many others on our board who helped to shape our strategy of partnering with the VA and really providing philanthropic funds to VA medical centers to jumpstart a very innovative program. And let me tell you a little bit more about what we did. Essentially, we pledged $50 million in philanthropic resources to support precision medicine centers or precision oncology centers of excellence, really to create a system of excellence within the VA. What we were able to do was take the science that we had pioneered in places, in some of the leading cancer centers throughout the US and the world, and really to bring them to VA medical centers to support veterans getting best-in-class prostate cancer care and research and treatment where they were being treated. Now, philanthropy is only one piece of the puzzle. It's been an amazing driver of bringing the community together in much the same way that your podcast brings together a community of, Vince Flynn and Kyle Mills, audience. We've been able to do the same within the VA with philanthropy, bringing together leading medical oncologists, clinical geneticists, and others who are now focused on bringing to bear coordinated, effective, efficient resources to veterans.
So in terms of like our donations, like where, or anyone's donations, where does most of that research, where does most of that funding go towards? Is it towards research, trials, reaching out, helping people, or?
Well, the Prostate Cancer Foundation has a few different buckets. The majority of our resources go to our research mission, and a very large percentage of that is directly to research. That's really the Prostate Cancer Foundation's part of our DNA, if you will, is research. There are many wonderful partner, and we call them brother foundations, sometimes they're called sister foundations, we call them brother foundations of prostate cancer, who focus on different aspects of cancer care. And PCF, we do focus on education and advocacy, but the majority of funding goes towards research. The way that we fund research is somewhat unique as well. We really believe that it's not just about individual scientists making this, seminal discoveries in their laboratories, and of course that's a driving force for for medical research progress. But the model of the Prostate Cancer Foundation is very much focused on teams of researchers. And sometimes we will actually bring together scientists, in science, and Christy, you probably know about this. There's a whole, there are issues with the, sharing your data, and when do you share your data? And
right.
Is it for the next conference? And what we really do is we scout the science all year round, and we bring people together who are working in similar or synergistic areas in a pre-competitive kind of way. So I think that's a very unique aspect of the Prostate Cancer Foundation and our scientific and medical leadership. So a great majority of our resources are dedicated to funding teams of scientists. With our VA program, our center model is a team-based model, and we provide an award of, for example, $2.5 million to a center over 5 years, and that supports medical oncologists and research nurses, research coordinators, personnel who are working on clinical trials or clinical studies. Oftentimes, scientists have resources for a clinical study. They may be getting something from industry, but they don't have the resources to really study the mechanisms around their testing or treating. And so sometimes the work that the philanthropy that we're providing provides the resources that nobody, very few other organizations will support to really unravel the mechanisms that work. And we really believe that science is important for, essentially advancing the field so that we can further reduce the death rate. And I hope that answers the question about what are we supporting. So I said a couple buckets, but I didn't mention there are actually kind of some. So teams are one area. The other area that we're very passionate about are early career researchers. And, essentially over the years, it's been harder and harder for, we call them young investigators, but early career researchers is the more common term, to really get their next research grant from the federal government, which is so essential for young and early career scientists to stay in research. And so we have really spent enormous resources on supporting these scientists at this sort of pivotal moment in their careers. And by seeding this research, we've been able to essentially fund the next generation of prostate cancer researchers. We always say that our mission is to put ourselves out of business, which is true, but we know that prostate cancer is a complex disease that will take the best minds in science to make that happen. And then another area for us is, of course, awareness and education, and we have some really phenomenal resources on our website. PCF.org, guides for men and families that are vetted by our scientific and medical community. And we update those very regularly. And the science is changing very, very quickly. We are so lucky in many ways that we've had FDA approvals recently for metastatic treatments for metastatic forms of prostate cancer. And so that is a part of our work, education and awareness.
Oh, good.
I'm just curious, where are some of the centers or these teams of doctors or researchers that you funded? Are they with universities or through other institutes? What are some examples of centers you funded?
Sure. Well, I would be hard to pick out one, but let me give you some in the VA because that's something I work on very closely. We have about 12 centers now that we're funding within the VA that are partnered with academic affiliates. For example, the University of Washington was one of our very first centers, supported by philanthropy, and that's partnered with the Puget Sound VA. And so it's a really tremendous way that we get the infusion of new research ideas, where veterans really can access clinical research first rather than later, and that's an example. And the University of Washington really pioneered work around the hereditary aspect of prostate cancer. So if you're a man who has not only a father or brother with prostate cancer, but now because of our knowledge of DNA damage, repair, mutations, if you have a sister with breast cancer, or it may have implications for your prostate cancer risk. And so the kind of model of the prostate cancer genetics clinic pioneered at the University of Washington, we've been really able to facilitate also with the same clinicians and researchers who spend time at the Puget Sound VA for our entire VA network.
That's great to hear.
Oh,
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, you mentioned that it's your job, or you would like to put yourself out of business, but obviously cancer is such a complex disease. But I guess I could ask you a different question. And where do you see your organization, going in the next 5, 10, 25 years? Like, what's the obviously it is derivative, but what does success look like?
I think success for PCF is a world where no man has to die of prostate cancer, and where we can really achieve cancer treatments, control, where we're using innovations in imaging and new technology to have smarter screening strategies, where we have treatments with fewer side effects. One of the issues for prostate cancer has been the complexity around not being able to discern between indolent and aggressive forms of prostate cancer early. And so, biomarkers and tools to better discern aggressive forms of prostate cancer, which men need to be monitored and screened more frequently, and which men who have indolent forms of prostate cancer who can live with it and who don't need interventions the way someone with an aggressive form would.
So I guess for our male listeners, we do have a lot of female listeners, but we do have a lot more male listeners, I feel like. What would you say to them? Should they go is there, like colon cancer, is there a time where you have to get screened, or should you, if you're like my grandfather died of or prostate cancer. So is there, when should I go talk to my doctor about this? What's some advice you could give us?
Well, the best advice is really to talk to your doctor early about, probably, if you have a family history of prostate cancer in your 40s. If you are a man who doesn't know your family history, essentially the kind of age range that we typically talk about is, starting in your 50s, about age 55, to talk to your doctor about whether prostate cancer screening is right for you. There is, many types of personal preferences that you and your doctor might take into account. And, the model that we advocate for is shared decision making, and that there are there's no one-size-fits-all strategy for prostate cancer screening. It's really an individual decision that each man makes with his doctor. So
Gotcha.
we,
talk to your doctors. Talk to your doctors.
Talk to your doctor is really the message, but also have the information, and
right.
And there's so much about with our medical health ecosystem that a patient needs to or a prospective patient needs to navigate. And so really we have a great kind of checklist on our website. You can download it, and it'll have every kind of question that you might want to discuss with your doctor about prostate cancer screening. I'd say know your risk. And certainly around your 40s and 50s is a good time to be thinking about, not just prostate cancer risk, but heart health and many other kinds of risk factors for other diseases. So.
Okay.
Well, this is so important. I learned a lot.
I got some time.
Yeah, learned a lot hearing from you. And so you mentioned great resources on your website. Is there any way you would point individuals to help support the mission, or anywhere they can go to get more involved?
Oh, absolutely. Welcome to email us at, we have info@pcf.org. Please feel free to email me if you're interested in our Veterans Health Initiative. We have a phone number if there are veterans who would like to find out more information about the clinical trials offered in our PCF VA network of centers of excellence and across the VA. We'd be happy to provide more information. You can email me at rlevine@pcf.org, and I'd love to hear from you.
Well, that's great.
Cool.
Before we let you go, we have to ask, have you read any Vince Flynn books, or can we offer you some recommendations on where to begin?
No. No, I'd love a recommendation, and I feel so passionate about the power of stories and fiction to really for so many things. So I'd love to hear, where should I, if I'm embarking on a Vince Flynn journey, where should I begin?
It's kind of an interesting debate because the community is sort of split. You can either go chronologically or you can go publication order, and we're doing our podcast in publication order. But I feel like most people start chronologically. Wouldn't you say, Mike?
Yeah. So the origin story of the character was not written until actually more than midway through Vince's writing career. So that would be American Assassin.
Oh, wow.
So that's where you get to meet his character and see his beginnings. But personally, Transfer of Power is my favorite,
which is the first one,
which is the first book. If you go in publication order, up to you. But if you want to check out Transfer of Power and American Assassin, those are two of the big ones.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Either one, you wouldn't be disappointed.
You won't. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so one vote for Transfer of Power. Okay, well, thank you so much. I look forward to that, and I really appreciate the privilege of speaking with you and your listeners today about the risks that prostate cancer poses for men and their families. And thank you so much for your support of our mission.
Well, thank you.
Awesome.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
All right. We hope you enjoyed that interview as much as we did, and we look forward to having some new patrons come on board to help support this cause. Again, we're going to be donating 100% of the next 2 months of our Patreon pledges to the Prostate Cancer Foundation. We really want to support the work they are doing with veterans. On Monday, we are going to bring you our regularly scheduled episode. It will be our next in the author series. This time, we were able to speak with Mike Trott, author of The Protected, a book all about his journey in the world of executive protection. And Mike is a veteran himself of the Air Force. He is a former employee of the CIA, and his primary role was the protection of the DCI, the Director of Central Intelligence. So, a lot of the stories Mitch Rapp is in, we would see Mike in the background protecting Kennedy all along the way, wherever she goes. So
maybe getting duped by Mitch along the way, especially in the third option.
That's true. It's true. Hopefully Mike wouldn't have been that Dumbo comes out the back of the house as Mitch is looking for a lost dog, and does he tie his belt around his ankles and make him pull his pants down and force him at gunpoint?
Something tells me
house?
that he wouldn't. But
actually, a lot of things he spoke to me about in the interview had really creepy or eerie direct relations to a lot of the Mitrap, the events we've covered in the books. So the same way we drew parallels between Operation Thunderbolt and Separation of Power, there were two stories he told me. One, I was like, that's straight out of Term Limits. And another one, I was like, holy cow, that's straight out of The Third Option. So he really has seen a lot of the stuff that Rap's dealing with in these books.
I'm excited to listen to that interview.
Cool.
All right. And so after that episode, we're going to be releasing Executive Power. So 2 full weeks on Executive Power. So yeah, if you haven't done so, pick up your copy, dust it off, and get ready for part 1 and part 2, dropping on November 9th.
All right. Again, we want to thank our patrons, including our special operator, Sherry F., along with our special agents, Matt, Dawn, Dennis, Peggy, Catherine, Ray, and Jeff. And if you haven't, please subscribe, rate, and review using your favorite podcasting platform. You can find us online at MitchRapPod.com or using the Twitter handle, also on Instagram, at MitchRapPod. And as always, Chris, what should we do?
Just let Mitch be Mitch. Just a disclaimer, this podcast is not affiliated with Vince Flynn, Kyle Mills, or Simon & Schuster, but thank you to them for bringing us the wonderful world of rap. And the music soundtrack is Guerrilla Tactics by Raphael Crooks.